The Nigerian cinema industry is said to be the second largest in the world in terms of economic value and size, said to earn over $6.4 billion a year, or 2.3% of Nigeria's gross GDP. This month, Funke Akindele's A Tribe Called Judah became the first Nollywood film to gross 1 billion naira. The Nigerian film industry has captured the hearts of audiences both locally and internationally, second only to the Indian Bollywood, from whence it got its name, Nollywood. What is Nollywood and what makes it tick? Join me on The World Today and find out. Good evening, welcome to The World Today. The Nigerian film industry traces its origins back to 1926. The earliest feature film made in Nigeria was Palava, 1926. In 1957, the first film to be shot in colour was Sam Zeba's film Fincho.
The juju man, that.
I think you are just playing with me. You are not serious.
Yes, I am.
Do you really want to marry me?
Yes,
Then say it.
I will marry you.
A number of well-known films were produced in the 60s and the 70s, including the late Hubert Ogunde's production Aye in 1979, based on one of his many plays. Chinua Achebe's famous book Things Fall Apart was made into a movie in 1971. What of today? Critics say most of the modern Nigerian Nollywood movies are concerned mostly with scenes of sex, violence, corruption and cult issues, subjects that will titillate and shock audiences, but sell. Is this the way forward? Yet there is a growing band of Nigerian filmmakers who want to break that mould and look instead to make movies that tell real stories, that tell it as it is, and try to be more creative, making movies that look at issues that affect and expose social problems, and not just to titillate the palates of the wider audiences. Closer to home, this is from the first Nollywood film I directed in 1982, Nigerian Hospitality.
100 naira.
And the next clip is, guess who, playing Father Benedict opposite the doyen of Nigerian movies, Onyeka Onwenu. Yes, anything you promise to God, you must keep.
Well, I promised Jesus that if he gives me a son, that son will grow up to be just like you, a priest, to serve him.
Lovely, but the child must make his own decision about entering the priesthood. All you can do is in 2005 in Rising Moon, directed by Andy Nwokolo. I have today in the studio an up-and-coming filmmaker whose movies tell stories about real people. His name is Yilan Yusuf. Yilan, welcome to The World Today. Yilan, has the Nigerian film industry, often called Nollywood, come of age, and has it started to take itself seriously?
I believe it has. It has come of age and it is taking itself very seriously. I really believe that. The attention it is getting proves that. You find that Nollywood films are finding their ways into, the larger international market and being accessed by an international audience. And you find that we have a wide range of stories now on platforms like Netflix, on Max and other platforms, local and international, that are telling stories from different angles, from different perspectives, So I think the industry is really growing,
I think DSTV played a big role in highlighting, showcasing Nigerian movies when Nollywood first came of age. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. I I believe DSTV actually gave a platform for works to be showcased. There were others as well, but I think DSTV actively, contributed to Nollywood films having a wider global platform.
I've seen several films which were produced and directed by my old friend Steve Gukas, which, as I would say, are probably more creative and serious than most of the Nollywood films we've seen today. I'm thinking of two films Steve was involved with, particularly 93 Days, which was about the 2014 Ebola outbreak.
You all need to take your temperature twice a day. Anything above 38 degrees Celsius, you need to tell us right away.
Dr. Badamosi,
And a more recent film called Living in Bondage, Breaking Free, about 2 years ago, which starred Ramsey Noah and was co-produced by Steve.
influence, power, everything. It's not free, my boy.
Oh, look at this star boy on side.
Mr. Richard.
Yeah.
Amazing party you have here. What do you know about Richard Williams?
The Six.
This cult group, the Brotherhood of the Six, have been involved in countless murders.
Those two films, I think, among a lot of the films which had been produced in that period, were some of the first which showed the seriousness of Nollywood.
Actually true. I would say there are a lot of film producers and filmmakers that have content on, I think particularly on Netflix right now. A good friend of mine who we started a production company some time back, Kevin Luther, just had a film on Netflix titled Dinner at Your Place. He has a new movie coming out too on Netflix. So those platforms have given an audience to unknown faces, unknown people who make films that most probably the titles may be popular, but you may not know who is actually behind it. Most times a movie becomes a hit and the title is known, and who is actually behind it may not. We are not really really into finding out or wanting to know who is behind a production as it is in other places. It's gradually happening actually. Once you see a particular film, you even begin to recognize some signatures. This is a Kunle Afolayan film and so on. So I think there's a lot of participation going on, and the quality, like I said, is becoming world standard. If not, you would not have them on those platforms.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in my day, in the days of analog, the quality was questionable because we used cheaper equipment. But today, I think since the advent of the digital revolution, particularly when Canon produced their first movie quality camera, the DSLR, the Canon 5D Mark II, I think that was one of the revolutions of the, and of course the developments in editing. Before you needed heavy editing machines, now you can do it on your phone.
yeah actually it's true. I think technology has always contributed to the growth and development of art and media in general, and it has actually helped the Nigerian movie industry to grow. Digital cameras have revolutionized filmmaking everywhere. It's not just the Nigerian plus, it's a plus everywhere. And we're gradually entering a phase where you have technologies that are available to,
and affordable.
Affordable, at the palm of your hand, that you could actually use to shoot movies that could compete on the world stage. You've heard of this film Unsane, shot on an iPhone 7. iPhone 7 is a very old phone, You have newer phones that have better resolution than an iPhone 7, and it's not the only film that was shot on an iPhone 7 or an iPhone, you know. So you find skit makers that are making lots and lots of, you know, impact, and, you know, gaining a lot of views and so on online.
Tell me, Yelan, what exactly is a skit?
Well, a skit is more like a short, you know. You have a full feature that has to be, the time frame actually defines what is a feature and what is not, and then you have a short, what you call a short film. A skit is something like a short film, but an amateur kind of short
Like
film.
TikTok.
The mode of capture,
Yeah.
the framing, and the quality of the imagery is what, you know, categorizes a visual content as a skit. Also, the duration, I think, determines whether you categorize something a short, a skit or not. The quality not necessarily would determine, because sometimes you could find actual features being cut into shorts and considered, or, you know, broadcasted as skits. But skits are popular now because anybody with a phone can shoot a skit, and you don't need to rig a set and anything.
You mentioned before the show that a lot of the film producers, film actors are more into skits. But how do you make money from a skit?
Well, there are a number of ways. Why? Because skits enable you to capture content without needing to prep. You know, you could just step out of the bathroom with a phone and you are inspired and you capture that moment, and that is what everybody lives for. Those are what pictures are for capturing moments. So I think skits have become so popular because with digital technology via our phones, we are able to capture moments.
Is this not what we keep seeing on, as I said before, on TikTok?
Yes, TikTok is also something like, is a platform for skits. You know, even though people use it for all sorts of things. And the thing is, you could back to your question about how people make money with skits. There are businesses, there are platforms that actually pay for influence. You know, you know what we call influencers. Somebody who has gathered a lot of followers because of the consistency in production of certain category of content. And, you know, people who have products to sell or services discover that they could actually approach some of these influencers, as they are called, because of their large following. So they could more or less be a go-between, you know, for them to access their customers, or, you know, so people get actually paid for that service, you know. So you could actually make, you know, money from skit making.
But tell me, is this moving the genre forward, or is it moving the genre back?
You mean
we talked about the early days of Nollywood films, which were just made so they could titillate and excite for money. Are skits going into that mode?
Well, the truth is, entertainment keeps evolving, you know, and I believe it will still evolve. You may have less participation in the near future, you know. In the future, you may just have one person being a whole studio, because technology is doing everything now. With AI now, you could write scripts in seconds.
You don't even need a camera.
You don't need a camera, you don't need anything. You know, it's just that the technology is still in infancy, you know. But in certain, you've heard of large Hollywood productions that were shot on a stage like this, you know, and you would think they were on a set somewhere in some remote part of the country, because of this digital stage that mimics and, you know, animates in real time. So people get to actually be on a set as though they were on, you know, an actual rigged set somewhere. So that's what technology is helping to do. So I think skit making may evolve. It may remain the way it is, you know, as traditional photography has always remained there, despite the coming of digital photography and all that. So I believe that skit making will definitely help. You may find skit movies, who knows?
You've made a number of movies yourself.
Yeah.
There was one
A few.
a few. Well, you got me involved with Father Jack,
Yeah.
which I played a cardinal, I think, wasn't it?
A Roman
I always
cardinal,
seem to be end up being either a priest.
I have a priest I want to send over to the UK for rehabilitation.
Our Lady of the Victory, Brownsville, West London. She does a lot of good works.
I see your two of my nana for here. When go?
I don't know where you go.
Guy, you dey lie me back. I will slap if your red cap over for your head now. When go?
I swear.
When go? When go? Where your friend? When come on go?
I swear. I don't know where you go.
I go wait you now. I will kill you guys.
I don't know where you
You
go.
know you need to
I'm not a cultist. It's just that I toasted this lady that happened to be his girlfriend.
But yes, how do you see your own forward? How do you see your own career in film
Filmmaking.
production, filmmaking?
I think what is happening in the industry is the advantage of a person like me or people like me who want to actually do this and still have other things, because large production takes time, not necessarily because of anything, but because of the things involved. We're talking manpower, we're talking heavy equipment and machinery. But with the sophistication that is coming into filmmaking now via new technologies, AI and things like that, it makes it easier to produce a movie within a short period of time. In the past, to shoot, for example, there's this series, The Mandalorian. It's a Hollywood series, Mandalorian. Most of the sets that were used to shoot that series were shot with that indoor stage setup that I told you, the digital screen that I told you about, I spoke about earlier. Whereas that series was actually based on an old movie series called Star Wars. I know many people have watched Star Wars. Star Wars was shot, I think most of the sets were built somewhere in Morocco. So you can imagine having to travel to Morocco, get permits, build sets. The budgets were always astronomical. But with a stage, you don't need to build any major set. Yes, you still need to get props and so on, but it reduces the cost. It's just like the same thing that's happening in space exploration with SpaceX and so on, going to space for almost 1/10 of the actual budget. So it's a similar thing that's happening.
But really, the key thing about our well, I'm involved a little bit industry is it's the creativity is what is the hard work. Or have we found ways of AI now can take care of the creativity, so we step back and just sit in our armchairs and
I don't really think AI will substitute creativity. It will aid it, maybe even speed up the process. I wish I could do a little demonstration, maybe generate an AI footage for you right now. It takes nothing longer than 2 seconds.
yeah.
But you still need to know what image,
yeah,
the texture, the framing, the lighting. So you still need filmmaking education for you to be able. You can't just tell the AI software to just produce something. It will not make sense. So you still need to have a background in lighting, in basic composition, framing, you know, in color balancing and all those things, which are integral parts of filmmaking. Basic principles of filmmaking.
I remember
and
a few
sound
years ago,
editing and sound design.
A young staff who was working, young man who was working for me, said, "Mr. Brooks, you're a dinosaur." And I said, "Well, even dinosaurs need to follow principles."
Of course, that's
and
one
the principles of film, photography,
it
media
still remains.
probably haven't changed in over 100 years.
With the little I've had, the little interface I've had with AI for producing sound or for footage, I've discovered that you still need human input, because you still need to give it some precision. It's a more advanced tool. That's it's a clever
thing. It's a tool. It's still a tool. It should be
Yeah.
treated as a tool.
It's a tool,
yeah.
but I've come to discover that principles will always remain principles. You know, whatever it is, I think it's difficult to eliminate principles. And I was one of those people that was curious when I first heard of AI to see what it could do, and I came to discover that you still need those principles. It's just that it takes away the time wasting, the heavy effort and everything, but you still need those basic principles. So there's always going to be room for creativity and so on.
Now, with all this talk about skits, TikTok, all this, where is the future of what I would term, possibly you would, serious cinema? The serious films that tell the real stories.
I think all the foundational structures of anything never really disappear. If you look at it, film started from pictures, motion, more or less like stop motion. It graduated to, in those days in the 20s, it was produced without sound. Mostly it wasn't even in color, you know. And then
just to stop you there, I was watching yesterday. I found a copy of the first feature film ever made in Nigeria, made in 1926. Completely silent.
Silent, yeah.
With a few
silent
captions
films
would come up what the people were saying.
People still make silent films till today. They are still relevant. You know, people talk of, okay, let's even go far back before the advent of pictures and film. It was stage. We still have stage actors. We still have stage plays till today. They are still relevant, and some of the A-list names in filmmaking, in the film industry today, Nigerian, you know, and others around the world, still do stage plays, you know. So I don't think anything new will get rid of the old. It may modify it. Yeah, maybe it may get rid of certain aspects that are not usable or relevant. For example, how digital film got rid of VHS and all those, you know. But we still have analog, and you still have digital form of analog because of the texture that analog had. That you could add
UMax.
Yeah, you discover that system, you could not mimic. It's difficult to mimic with you know, digital software. So or to create just like that, you have to look for a way to create that old texture, like that Super 35mm and Super 8mm. You still have films that are shot on Panavision, you know, 80 and so on, that carry that old field of cinema, you know. And people's fears when digital filmmaking came in, the films are going to be too crisp, too sharp,
not realistic.
Not realistic. It takes away that fantasy, the illusion. But then you discover that all those things are coming back, but they're coming back in digital form, you know. So you're having the old and the new at the same time, refined more or less. So I think it's a plus for everyone.
How is the new technology changing the face of film production?
It's making it easier to produce content. In the past, I remember people always complained in the past about the qualities of films, and I remember the friend of mine I mentioned, you know, who we started something together with some years ago. I still remember when he had to shoot something within 2 weeks. You can imagine shooting a series within 2 weeks. That means you don't get the opportunity for retakes and things like that, because you cramp everything into 2 weeks, because you have hired a location, you've hired equipment. To hire an RE or something, you know how much it costs to hire per day. You hire lights, you hire lots of stuff. So most people just, you know, Django and just, you know, guerrilla filmmaking. That was what we used to call it that time.
Yes,
you know, you cram everything, and then sometimes you hear noises in the background. Sometimes you hear the sound of a generator somewhere. You know, because people had, you know, issues with budget. But these days there are sound recording devices, sometimes even from phones, that are as good as anything you record with 99 hertz. You know, 99. Yeah. It's as good. You place the two together, you can't make a difference. You can't really, you know, point out what is a lower, you know, medium of collection, you know, and so on. So technology is actually making it easier. I know people still complain about skits. Phones are getting better. The skits are even getting better. You're not hearing some of those highs with the audios as it used to be when these things started becoming a trend. I think it's going to be more sophisticated with what phones can do now.
And from my own experience with film crews, I've noticed the young people are actually getting better.
Yeah.
They're
learning,
getting access to seeing how films are made all around the world.
Yes.
So their own professionalism.
Yes.
It's good. I
think is a good one, because it's going to give employment to as many as have an interest in media. You know, whether you're a content creator or a performer or somebody who wants to be a marketer, you know, you could never really tell. Nobody knew where phones were going to take this economy to. It has gotten to this point. We're making calls under umbrellas. Now we have businesses on our phones. You know, who knows what could be next?
I must stop you there.
I have found that happy people who may have nothing or even have no one to care for them, or satisfied with only Jesus, go about their life so free, with no fear or care.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you very much, Yolande, for honouring us with your presence. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show, and we look forward to seeing you at home, same time, same place next week.